Always great having Chepe Machine Gun Mariscal on the program. And you can see him back in action next April the 6th at UFC Vegas 90 when he takes on Morgan Charriere. Chepe, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. How about you?
Good, man. Nice to talk to you again. September was the last fight. We actually did an interview after your big win over Jack. Did you want this much time off? What have you been up to since then?
No, I definitely wanted to run it back, like with anybody. I was saying yes to a lot of other opponents. Obviously, I guess they get to choose who they want to go with. So I let my manager know. I let the UFC know. I'm ready. Anybody falls out, I'm right there. Just give me a call. And yeah, man, I just been just trying to stay busy. I
Yeah.
like to stay busy. I like the fight game. This is all I do. I go recover, back to the gym. And right now it's everything's more serious now.
Mhm.
I'm in the big leagues, so I got to do responsible things and then be ready for any on calls.
How frustrating is it, when you're in your prime right now, you're ready to fight, you want to fight, and you have to just play that waiting game for the UFC to actually give you a fight?
Yeah, well, it is obviously frustrating, but um, I had to learn patience in this game. I've learned early in my career. I was taking all these crazy fights and not really recovering, not just physically, but spiritually and mentally. So now, like that, I got the experience. I'm like, all right, well, now I know how to prepare just in case like these short notices or they need a fill in or something. So I obviously try to with everything else, I try to just stay intact. Like I want to be a company man. I like, hey, I want to work with you guys. I want to, I'll promote you, whatever. I'll put on a show, whatever I can do, and then I want the full experience. So everybody's like, hey, man, why'd you take this fight at the Apex? Like, kind of bogus. I want to go watch you fight, pay tickets. I'm like, hey, man, the tickets are there. Obviously, they're expensive and stuff, but I want the full experience. I want to fight everywhere, and anybody, So yeah.
Well, this is your first time fighting at the Apex, if I'm not mistaken. Some guys like it because it's more intimate. You can hear your coaches. You don't have to deal with all of the crazy stuff that you got to do, pre-fight. If you're on a big UFC pay-per-view card, it's a little bit more chill. Are you
Mhm.
excited about that to just kind of like have more of an easier fight week?
Uh, well, yeah, the fight week is gonna be good. It obviously makes it more the fight tougher, and that's what I want. I want to fight the 100% guy, because that's what we're bringing to the table. I'm always a trigger away, like I don't care. I'm getting booed, whatever. Anybody is here, not here, like we're gonna go. I'm ready to, scrap and ready to just take the victories always, and put on a show, obviously. So I'm very excited. I'll be the new Apex King, whatever. I'll do what I gotta do to take over or be the like I said, be the company man. Like I can't complain, like I'm in the big leagues. I'm fighting for in front of millions of people, on TV, all this stuff. So, I got to take my turn. I got to go through the ladder and hopefully one day meet that main card.
For sure. I always find it interesting talking to fighters too, because obviously, if you're fighting in an arena with a bunch of screaming fans, you feel that energy. But when you're at the apex and there's not as many people there, obviously in that intimate setting, it feels a little different. But you have millions of people watching at home on, ESPN Plus. So I have to imagine that you guys know that you must feel that in addition to being there with the people around the cage. Do you think that you'll be cognizant of that come fight night? Like you'll understand that although you're not in a big arena with a bunch of screaming fans, everyone's still watching.
Yeah, well, you got to prepare, like the right preparation will put you in the right spot. So like my coaches, we talk things meant like, we mentally prepare for everything. So we even do that in the room, like, hey, uh, they put me in situational positions or they make me spar against, bigger guys, and longer dudes or faster strikers, like, so it's all situational stuff, like, and I learned how to like listen to my corner. I get like, especially being booed in Australia and stuff like that. I was like, oh, perfect. I know how to like silence everything and hear my corner, which is crazy. I didn't know you could have that ability. I guess you got to like train it. But yeah, man, I feel like once I can hear my corner, I know they're going to be speaking French, saying whatever they got to say, to beat me. But I just love the game. I want to fight the best version of him, and he's going to fight the best version of me. And we're going to put on a good show and see what's up.
Can't wait to watch it, man. Before we transition to camp and this upcoming fight, I got to get your take on the new champion at 145 pounds. Obviously, Ilia Topuria goes in there, and it stunned me. I didn't expect. I knew how good Topuria was, but I thought Volk was going to win. What was your takeaways from that fight? Were you as surprised as I am?
No, I wasn't actually because first of all, Volk got recently knocked out. All right. So that we got to think, especially that time period, like from partying and doing all this crazy stuff to going to a championship fight, getting knocked out, not having the right nutrition before that knockout. It takes a longer time to recover. So a lot of fighters don't, they don't look at that. They're like, hey, no, I need to be in the cage. I need to be safe. Like, nah, that's not safe, man. Like, that's where you got to be aware. That's where you're in, you know, you're in protective mode. You're like, you're consistently on. So if you never learn how to like turn that off and really recover, he would have had a great start coming back. It would have been easier. That fight against Islam would have been probably better. I don't recommend trying to party like that and then go straight to those kind of fight and two championship fights. Not just one, two. Like, dude, those guys are training 24/7. They're dedicated, and you just got back to the gym. So I'm like, man, I don't know if this is gonna be the right thing for Volk. He just got knocked out. He's going against Ilia Topuria, who's a great striker. I give it to him. Hey, maybe he would have, even if Volk had a great camp. We don't know. Maybe he would have done the same thing. But Ilia Topuria had that little window. He knew. He used the window, and now look, he could do whatever he can with that now. He's like, oh, I'm not gonna give nobody a chance. Like, he has that right throne to do those kind of things, but eventually he's got to fight somebody, right? But yeah, I don't know. Like, something about him. We didn't vibe that good in the elevator. When I fought in Jacksonville when he main event with Josh Emmett, something about him, man. Like, we got in the elevator and the vibe, it was just, I was like, man, something about this guy. And I like fighters. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm all team fighters, because it's a very individual sport, right? But man, something about him, his vibe, the way he carried, I don't know. He was like, he looked at me on shoes and looked me up, and I was like, oh, bro, you don't want any of this. Like, and him winning only motivated me more. I was like, that's the motherfucker I want to go get. I'm gonna go get him, and I'm gonna go through the ladder if I have to. If he's there, he's 28 years old, so perfect. I'm 31, so I hope to meet him and give him an ass whooping.
Do you think that he recognized you as a guy in his weight class when you saw him in the elevator and he thought, oh, this is a guy, maybe I might match up with down the line? That's why you got that vibe.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe it's an ancestor thing. He's Spaniard. I'm from Mexico. My family's from Mexico. Like, I felt like our ancestors were kind of like, like in there. I was like, man, something. I want to hit this dude. Like something. And I guess he did because we are the same height. We have the same arm length. So I was like, oh, okay. Seeing him compete and do all those things, I was like, oh, I could do this. I definitely could do this. And I definitely would do what he's doing, but better, But the only way I got to do that is by, not beating myself before any fight, being prepared, not chasing those guys yet. That's why I'm trying to focus on the ladder, try to take these guys out, whatever the UFC wants to do, and then, hopefully get my shot.
A lot of people feel like Topuria is going to be the champ for a while at 145. Do you agree? Do you think this is a guy that's going to hold on to the belt for quite a few fights?
He can, man. And the thing is, he's a fighter who's willing to change. He's willing to change his style. He's willing to do his things. He's switching up his stance to reset himself. I watched a lot of his film, and I see a lot of fighters like like I'm not trying to bash anybody, but like Brian Ortega, who goes through hell of a like beat up and then comes back. Like guys shouldn't go through that, and especially like against Topuria, you can't do that with him. Like I think Topuria learned. I remember he got rocked by this one tall dude, and he came back. So you could see he knows how to survive. And I was like, damn, that only taught him how to find his range, where to shoot in the UFC, and bro, he's doing a great job. And if nobody changes style or how to fire or where to get him or set up the takedowns, he will be champion for a very long time, until I get there or somebody else or whatever.
What are your thoughts on fighters going up or down a weight class trying to get a second belt? Because, O'Malley has said, he'd like to test himself against Topuria. That would kind of, hold up the division if he did do that. I mean, even at 145 right now, Max is going up to fight your guy, Gaethje, at UFC 300, and depending on what happens with that fight, it really could muddy things up at the top of both of those divisions. What are your thoughts on all that?
Well, man, you got to look at it as like some of the greatest do those, like you see John Jones did it. Conor McGregor was the first example. Conor McGregor, like everybody was like ready for him to get smashed by Eddie Alvarez, and then he comes in, knocks out Eddie Alvarez, becomes the double champ, doesn't even defend the titles, didn't even have talks. He just went and started promoting himself, became a millionaire. He took advantage of that double belt because one belt, he was like, probably this is not enough gold to get me more gold, So he's like, I got to get another one. And that's the thing, some fighters, they want that. They want more gold, more money, and Conor did a great job of showing that example that you can do that. Like another guy, like I like to say, the Conor McGregor of America is Sean O'Malley. He did a great job of being patient, not chasing the wrong guys, fighting and beating some of the top guys, where it surprised me too, where he beat Peter Yan. He beat, he beat dudes that were like, okay, he's gonna have some trouble, but he sparked everybody, and he took that window. He's gonna take that window and keep going. He had a great call out of Cheeto. He didn't have to call out Cheeto, but great business move to get Cheeto, and redeem that loss, get a win, and keep doing investments, which is fighting Topuria, and they had beef before. If they didn't have beef before and they were trying to do this now, I guess everybody could understand, like, hey man, you're just doing this for some cloud. Like, not like, nah, that's been going on, that's been grudging out. Even Topuria said that to Paddy Piblet, but Piblet is in a different category. Right. Topuria's he's going. So yeah, man, it's just I feel like guys are gonna do what they can to get, that top dollar, the top attention, or maybe they, going for that is just something in their story, something another successful story, like, hey, I actually went up a weight class, fought some dudes. Like, look at Jose Aldo. They put him in the Hall of Fame, and he fought in 3 weight classes. Like, you gotta, and people were like, why do you do that? Like, but he's giving the chances. He's trying to always, well, not Jose Aldo, Frankie Edgar. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, and they gave Frankie Edgar the titles, shots, all that stuff, but like, that was a businessman, company man.
Right.
He wanted to do what's right for the company. And so he did a great job, So it depends. A lot of fighters could, be like a Khabib, want a clean record, get the money, cash out, doesn't have to defend the title. And then he obviously did defend it, but that was it. He knew that was it. Like, he could be the top market thing. If he had a loss, people would be like, hey, if he fought Tony Ferguson, whatever, it'd be different. But right now he's at 29-0, using that market, and Russia loves him. Same thing with, like, even Conor losing, him coming back and losing, he had that star power that it's never gonna die.
Yeah, well, one thing's for certain, there's a lot of interesting fights to be had here in 2024, including yours. Let's talk a little bit about camp. I just finished interviewing your teammate and friend Austin Hubbard. Who is
Uh,
he? One of the main guys you're going to have around you to get you ready for Morgan? Who else are you going to have as your main
yeah,
partners?
I actually sparred with him yesterday. Like me and Hubbard go way back. We're both not signed in the UFC. We're living in a fighter house. So like when I first moved out here, that's when I met him. So it's great to have him back here training. I know he lives in Illinois, but yeah, he's great for that training. He's got like a weird style that I can't read, so it's fun. I've been training with Archie, who's in Bellator. I'm training with who's undefeated, big prospect. And then I'm in the middle of Justin Gaethje's camp. Like so it's definitely like that. Sparring with him, I feel very, very confident. And then I'm sparring with Corey Sandhagen. Just trying to evolve, staying with those guys all the time. Trying to collect more knowledge and yeah, obviously try to be the best version of myself.
Yeah, well, you definitely have some great training partners to get some work in with. As they say, iron sharpens iron. What
Yeah.
do you think about this matchup? Morgan Charriere, he's got a lot of TKO victories on the feet. I think it's 11. Do you like this from a stylistic standpoint?
Yeah, of course. Like, those are the guys I like to hunt. Those guys that like to put out people. Like look at Trevor Peak.
Peak. Yeah.
He was like, people were bashing me on the internet, like, "Hey, man, you're gonna get knocked out." But even close friends, I was like, "Bro, you got like, man, there's levels to this shit, and I know where I'm at." Like I beat up Trevor so much that he's at my camp now. He's out here training. Like that's what it is. Like I know what I'm doing and what's going to evolve and it's going to hit this crazy peak because I've got a lot of mixed martial arts. I've done a lot of judo, Muay Thai, all these other things. So just getting ready for this opponent too. I see that he's got a lot of fights. He looks like a fun fighter. We fought in almost the same promotions. He fought in Cage Warriors. I did too. Um, got a big record, 19-9. TKO guy, and he hasn't been TKO'd. He's been submitted. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I TKO this guy and set the example for myself and let everybody else know like I'm coming for it.
He's only 1-0 in the UFC. I'm sure you watched the fight. What did you
Mhm.
take from that win?
I felt like he fought a guy who was scared. That guy was not like ready for any firepower. He looked mentally broken, before he was even his walkout was weird. Like, I always study a little bit of the fighter, any little thing, like, oh, he likes to drink a little bit of water before he goes in, or he puts water on the ground, scrapes his feet. He gets smacked in the face a couple times, like things like that. You got to notice some of those things, and that fighter did not look ready. And that's the thing. When you see a fighter that's not ready, you got to take advantage of it. And he took advantage of it. And he got this nice body kick, finished the good guy, and set a little example for himself. But he was trying to obviously he was matched up by somebody else. And I'm glad that he said yes to me. I'm only 2-0 in the UFC, so I'm glad to have another top contender, prospect or, in that lineup, and I'm obviously going to put in the work and put on work on him.
Well, we know how good you are on the feet, Chepe. We know how tough and durable you are, and with his ability on the feet as well. Do you think this could be one of those fights that steals the show, maybe fight of the night, or do you think you get him out of there quick? Maybe you have too much power, you're going to stun him and put him out.
Man, the big thing is always to put him out. That's the number one thing. But it's in patience. If I go out there try to race it, I probably end up catching some bullshit and I get knocked out myself. So I'd rather go in there, be clear minded, read him, try to knock him out. Obviously, been talking to some power coaches. Where to throw some power. Trevor Whitman is a great coach on that shit. So I'm obviously picking his brain. My striking coach Mike Gonzalez, he's been showing me a lot of ab stuff, like, so I'm obviously trying to collect that power. That I have that cardio. I know he's a good striker, but I'm gonna try to put him out, or it might be a fight, because if he survives that shit, hey, all props, bro. Let's put a fight on the night now. Like if you're gonna survive, let's do it. don't let me beat your ass for 3 rounds. Like let's put on a show. But even though we're beating our ass for those 3 rounds, I'm gonna do whatever to do. What I'm gonna do whatever I can to win.
Mhm. Last question from me, Chepe, before we get you out of here. For all the MMA bettors that are out there, and you know there's a lot of them, give us your official prediction. How does this fight end?
I wanna. Well, you can put it for two. It's gonna be TKO first round or TKO second.
All right, my man. Can't wait to see you back in there. You're always must see TV. April the 6th, UFC Vegas 9-day. Chepe Mariscal faces Morgan Charriere. Great talking to you again, bud. Before we do sign off, I want to give you the floor. Anything you want to plug? Anyone you want to thank? Floor is yours.
Dan, I just yeah, I want to thank my team, Elevation Fight team, my corner, my management team, Iridium, for doing their thing. And I'm glad to just be matched up and ready to put on a show.